I'd been married to my wife for 8 years, together for 11. We were never the loud, dramatic couple, more like routines, inside jokes, shared silence on the couch. That's probably why I brushed off the first red flags. She started guarding her phone like it contained state secrets. Screen face down. Password changed. Bathroom trips that took forever. When I asked, she snapped that I was being paranoid and controlling, which shut me up fast. I told myself marriages go through phases. Stress at work. Midlife restlessness. Anything but what my gut was screaming. But the tone changed. She got sharper with me, mean in small ways. Eye rolls. Sighs. Comments about how I never try anymore, delivered while she barely looked at me. Sex dried up, then turned transactional, like she was checking a box. I felt lonely in my own house and embarrassed for even noticing. I remember thinking, if she wanted to cheat, I'd know. That was the lie I told myself to sleep at night. The excuses started piling up fast. Late meetings that weren't on her calendar. Girls' nights with people I'd never heard of. A weekend team-building retreat that somehow required her to buy new lingerie. When I asked basic follow-up questions, she got defensive instantly, like I'd insulted her. She accused me of spying, of not trusting her, of trying to control her life. Somehow I ended up apologizing more than once. One night, everything escalated out of nowhere. She came home close to midnight, smelling like a cologne I don't own. I made a joke about it, trying to keep things light. She snapped, told me I was exhausting, then slept on the couch by choice. At 3 a.m., her phone kept buzzing on the coffee table. Over and over. I stared at it like it was alive. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. That sound alone flipped something inside me. For the first time, I stopped making excuses for her and started preparing myself for answers I didn't want. The next morning she rushed out without coffee, without a kiss, without even pretending everything was normal. She left her tablet on the kitchen counter. I didn't go looking for anything. I swear that part is true. A message popped up while I was washing dishes. Just a name I didn't recognize and a heart emoji. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. I told myself I'd just look at that one message. Instead, I opened a floodgate. Weeks of conversations. Hotel jokes. Complaints about me. Screenshots of her in outfits I hadn't seen in years. Voice notes talking about how careful they had to be. It wasn't vague. It wasn't emotional only. It was detailed, deliberate, and cruel. Every line felt like it was written to humiliate me. I didn't cry right away. I felt hollow, like someone scooped everything out of my chest and forgot to put it back. When she came home that evening, I was still sitting at the table, tablet in front of me, waiting. She froze the second she saw the tablet. Not shock, recognition. Then she sighed, like I was the inconvenience. I asked her who he was. Calm voice. Too calm. She laughed and said it was just a coworker being flirty and that I was reading into things. I scrolled and read one of her messages out loud. Her smile disappeared instantly. She changed tactics fast. Said I invaded her privacy. Said I had no right. Said if I trusted her, this wouldn't be an issue. When that didn't work, she swore nothing physical had happened. Just talking. Just fantasizing. Just a stupid mistake. She looked me straight in the eye while lying and didn't even blink. That hurt more than the messages. When I asked if she loved him, she rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Then she told me I drove her to it by being distant. That's when my hands started shaking again, not from fear, but from realizing how easily she could rewrite reality. The conversation exploded after that. One minute we were standing in the kitchen, the next she was yelling that she felt trapped for years and I was yelling back that she could have just left instead of humiliating me. She grabbed her keys and said she needed air. I asked her where she was going. She said, out, like I was stupid for asking. The door slammed so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. 10 minutes later, her sister called me. Apparently, my wife had already told her I was acting unhinged and accusing her of cheating for no reason. I hadn't even processed the affair yet, and she was already building her defense. While I was still standing there with the evidence, she was rewriting the story in real time. Then my phone buzzed. A message popped up on the tablet. Did he find out? That was the moment I knew there was no misunderstanding, no gray area, no saving face. Everything collapsed at once: the marriage I believed in, the version of her I trusted, and the future I thought was solid. When she came back hours later, something in me had already hardened. I wasn't calm anymore. I wasn't curious. I was furious. I asked her directly if she'd slept with him. She didn't answer right away, which was answer enough. Then she said it only happened once. Then twice. Then she snapped and said the number didn't matter because it didn't mean anything. Each version contradicted the last, and she didn't care. I felt this heat in my chest, like my body was vibrating. I slammed my hand on the counter so hard it hurt, but I welcomed the pain because it was simpler than what was happening in my head. I wanted to scream, to break something, to make her feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. Instead, I laughed. A sharp, ugly laugh. That's when she looked scared for the first time. That night, I slept on the floor of the spare room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage and wondering how long I'd been the only one in it. The next day she decided to come clean, or at least her version of it. She talked fast, like if she rushed through it, it would hurt less. She told me where they met, how it started, how it was supposed to be harmless. Every sentence was packed with excuses. She blamed stress. Blamed boredom. Blamed me again for being predictable. Then she slipped and mentioned a hotel name I hadn't seen in the messages. I asked her why she even needed a hotel if it was just casual. She snapped that I was obsessed and needed to stop interrogating her. But the damage was done. My brain latched onto the details: room numbers, nights she worked late, the way she said his name without realizing it. Those details burned themselves in. I knew they'd come back at the worst times, uninvited. By the end of it, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was exhausted. It hit me that no explanation she gave would ever make sense, because the truth was simple and ugly: she chose him, over and over, and expected me to live with the aftermath. After that, she shifted into survival mode. Suddenly, I was the villain. She told me I was cold, emotionally unavailable, married to my routine instead of to her. She said any woman would have done the same in her position. When I didn't respond, she accused me of being manipulative by withholding forgiveness. It was dizzying how fast she flipped the script. She started crying, not quiet, ashamed crying, but loud, performative sobs. She said she hated herself, then 5 minutes later said she didn't regret anything because it helped her feel alive. If I pointed out the contradiction, she snapped at me for nitpicking. I realized she wasn't confused. She was testing which version of reality I'd accept. That night I caught myself apologizing again, out of habit. I stopped mid-sentence. The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument. That's when it finally sank in: this wasn't just about the affair. This was about how easily she could dismantle me if I let her. The anger burned itself out faster than I expected. What came after was worse. I'd wake up and forget for half a second, then it would all rush back in like a wave to the chest. I cried in the shower so she wouldn't hear. I'd stare at old photos on my phone, trying to pinpoint the exact moment she stopped choosing me. Every memory felt contaminated, like it had been quietly edited without my consent. She noticed the shift and softened her tone, but it wasn't kindness, it was damage control. She made vague promises about therapy, about starting fresh, but avoided specifics. When I asked her to cut contact with him, she hesitated just long enough to answer wrong. She said she needed closure. That word shattered whatever hope I had left. I wasn't mourning just the marriage. I was mourning the version of myself who trusted without fear, who thought loyalty was a given. That version of me was gone, and I didn't know who I was supposed to be without him. The turning point came over something stupid. I asked her, calmly, if she would be willing to give me full transparency: phones, passwords, no contact, real effort. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked tired and said that level of accountability wasn't healthy. In that moment, everything clicked into place. I realized I was fighting alone. I was bleeding out emotionally while she was negotiating comfort. She wanted forgiveness without consequences, healing without honesty, a reset button that only erased her guilt. The affair wasn't a mistake to her, it was an inconvenience that got exposed. I went for a long drive that night and didn't feel angry or sad. I felt clear. For the first time since all this started, I wasn't trying to fix her, understand her, or save the marriage by myself. I was just thinking about how to save what was left of me. Over the next few days, I made the hardest choice of my life. I told her I couldn't stay, not because I didn't love her, but because I couldn't trust her, and I couldn't keep reconstructing my life around lies. She begged. She cried. She offered everything I asked for: transparency, therapy, promises. But it was too late. I knew that the person who chose him, again and again, wouldn't magically become the person I needed overnight. Packing my things, I felt the weight of 8 years in my hands: our photos, mementos, shared books. Every object carried memories, some good, some poisoned by betrayal. I left with a calm I didn't expect. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just walking out, step by step, each one lighter than the last. She stood in the doorway, silent, probably rehearsing what she would say next, but I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The choice had been made. The first week after moving out was surreal. I slept in a quiet apartment that felt too big and too empty. Every small sound: traffic outside, the hum of the fridge, reminded me that I was on my own for the first time in years. No arguments, no manipulations, no excuses. Just space to think. I went through waves of disbelief. Some mornings I woke up expecting to see her messages or hear her keys in the door. Some nights I found myself staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had overreacted. But slowly, clarity began to seep in. I remembered who I was before her lies and realized I didn't have to carry her choices as my burden anymore. I could grieve, yes, but I could also start rebuilding. Even grocery shopping or making coffee felt like small victories. I hadn't expected freedom to feel so heavy and liberating at the same time. As the days passed, the anger returned in waves, but it was different now: controlled, almost analytical. I journaled to untangle the mess of emotions: betrayal, embarrassment, sadness, relief. I talked to close friends, who listened without judgment, just offering a mirror for my thoughts. Some nights, the sadness hit like a physical weight. I'd lie awake remembering moments we shared, the vacations, the lazy Sunday mornings, and feel them twist into something tainted. But I also realized I was allowed to feel conflicted. Love doesn't disappear overnight, even when trust does. I was learning that accepting the pain didn't make me weak, it made me human. For the first time in months, I could imagine a life not defined by her actions, where I was the priority, not the betrayed. Weeks turned into months, and the fog began to lift. I started setting boundaries, not just with her, but with myself. No more checking social media obsessively, no more replaying every conversation in my head. I focused on work, hobbies I'd abandoned, and friendships I had neglected. Little by little, I reclaimed pieces of myself I hadn't realized were missing. I even started dating again, cautiously, slowly learning to trust people outside of that toxic cycle. Each small connection reminded me that the world hadn't ended, that not everyone would treat me like a backup plan. I wasn't bitter toward life, I was cautious, wiser, and more self-aware. I learned to prioritize my own well-being first, which felt revolutionary after years of bending to someone else's deceit. It wasn't instant healing, but it was progress, and it was mine. Looking back, I can see how the cracks started small and almost invisible. I ignored them because I wanted to believe in us, because I wanted to protect the life I thought I had built. What I've learned is that love isn't enough when trust is gone, and staying in a marriage out of habit or fear of being alone only prolongs pain. I've learned to listen to my instincts, to recognize manipulation, and to set boundaries without guilt. Most importantly, I've learned that self-respect isn't negotiable. Betrayal teaches harsh lessons, but it also teaches clarity, resilience, and the value of choosing yourself first. To anyone in a similar situation, pay attention to the little signs, honor your feelings, and don't let anyone make you doubt your worth. Healing is possible, and you don't have to do it alone.